in a story, there's two different things that push a story forward to make it happen, to push the reader or the watcher into the world that these characters live in, to experience the train ride, which is the story. It is the engine of the story, and that is one of two things. It's either a character's ideals and motives pushing everything forward, or it's a series of events happening that the character is experiencing as they're going on this train ride. Fundamentally, One Piece and Bleach are two very different shows, but this is where they divert the most. This is what makes them wholly distinct. This is the optimal thing that pulls them apart from each other, that makes them a good comparison in this case. Bleach is a story where our main protagonist, Ichigo, gets pulled along the engine because of a series of events that kind of force him into his current predicaments. In the Soul Society arc, Rukia gets kidnapped. In the arc very before that, the very first arc, he has to become a substitute Reaper because Rukia loses her powers and he needs to save her. Everything in Bleach springs from a woman getting kidnapped and Ichigo pretty much getting forced to into the story in every single arc. I'm not so sure about the final arc in Bleach because it hasn't been animated and I've only seen the anime, and that's all I can judge it off of because that's all I've seen. Going to One Piece is a story that is not driven by a series of events happening. Our protagonist is causing the series of events. He's pushing forward. He's altering the story by his mere presence in it. Luffy wanted to sail. He wanted to help. Let's start with Zoro. He wanted to recruit Zoro onto his crew. He was the catalyst for the story happening. It wasn't, Rukio showed up and a hollow attacked, and therefore Ichigo reacted to what was happening. Luffy makes other people react to what he does. He wanted to save Zoro. He wanted to save Nami and fight Arlong. None of this would have happened if if Luffy didn't want to do something, if he wasn't active in the story. The best example is the entirety of the Skypiea and Jaya saga, because that's an entire story arc where he wants to find the Sky Islands, push forward in the story, reach out and grab. But you have Ichigo who's constantly reacting to what's happening in the world. Everything in Bleach would have still happened if Ichigo did nothing the entire story. Obviously, like the events would have ended a lot poorly, but it's simply because he's reacting to the current situation and not influencing the current situation. And don't get me wrong, I think this is a perfectly fine writing style. I feel like this is perfectly acceptable to have your main protagonist react to things. However, if you have a protagonist that spends all his time reacting to everything that's happening in the world, he never pushes forward. Ichigo is basically uh he's a graham cracker of a character. Like his ideal is a normal life. He just wants to live a normal life. He never wanted to become a Shinigami. He never wanted to become a savior of people. He just simply wanted what the average man wants and didn't want his friend to die. It's the harder it is to achieve something, and the more like it doesn't seem like something somebody would want to achieve at all, the more interesting, the more well written the character has to be to push forward and get that ideal. Let me think of a couple of other examples. A great example of one being both is Full Metal Alchemist, a fantastic story. In the beginning, it actually starts out with Ed and Edward bringing their mom back. They're influencing the story forward, and then they react to a series of events that cause them to discover things, and then they start influencing the story again as they start going through the paces. Yep. The way to do it is either to have a character continuously push forward like Luffy, or having something, um, or switching it up from arc to arc. Let's think of a different arc. Um, what's a great example? Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto is a character who spends most of his time reacting to things. I believe the only arc where he was actually proactive was for no. Mm, no. He spends all his time pretty much reacting. And I find characters a lot more interesting when they influence the story, when they're pushing forward. But it comes from like a dynamic versus static characters. Luffy is a very static character in his world. Doesn't mean he's bad. It means he's a pillar in the One Piece world. He's someone who represents an ideal, who doesn't change. He changes other people to make them better. Ichigo is a dynamic character. His character is constantly changing. Well, yeah, yeah. His character, I wouldn't say constantly changes, but he has character development throughout the story, making him a more fleshed out character, making him feel more real in the world. But he also represents ideals, but he spends most of his time adapting to what the current circumstances are. Now, which one is better? Someone who acts and pushes the story, or someone who reacts to the situation? I would say having a mix is the healthiest way to go. Luffy is exceptionally well written, but if the cast wasn't there, if he didn't have other people to react to what he was doing and what the villains were doing, and he reacts to what the villains were doing, if they didn't play off of each other, and it was just people reacting to Luffy, it wouldn't be an interesting show. A great example of this would be the overly cautious hero, an isekai that came out, I think, a year or two ago. In this, the overly cautious hero is summoned to a world and he basically prepares for an obscene amount of time for any task that he does, and he just does insane things to complete his goals. And people just react to him not really. And he just kind of powers through every challenge in front of him. It's not an interesting story premise. Sure, it's funny to watch for the first couple of episodes, but it doesn't lend itself to making a story that engages the um, watcher or reader. A great example of stories that engage people are stories where you can come up with theories, where you have predictions to what's happening next, because it's sucking you in so much, you feel like you want to come up with what happens next inside the world. Bleach works really well because its supporting cast is one of the best supporting casts I've ever seen. So many different characters that, in their right, all have the capabilities of becoming protagonists in themselves. If any character has the opportunity to be a protagonist in Bleach, and most of the time the story takes a moment and slips off the focus of Ichigo and focuses on other characters, on why they're doing what they're doing and why they are um, interacting in the current story arcs. Be- so yeah, you can either have one character that pushes the story forward, and then other characters that are reactive characters to what's happening and tries to juxtapose or bounce off of your main character. Or you can have a supporting cast that really lends itself to boosting up the story. And that is the biggest difference in between Bleach and One Piece. If you asked me which one of these stories has a better method, I would not give you an answer because there are so many other factors to both of these stories. First off, I would say the side characters in Bleach have a lot more time on screen development, but I feel like that also lends itself towards bad pacing and poor world building. While One Piece has amazing world building, and it puts fewer characters in each of its arcs so it can elaborate on each of those characters a lot more in their individual arcs, and then they go away to do their own thing. With Bleach, every character is on the screen almost the entire time, which I think is a detriment to the series. So they kind of balance each other out. Mm, if I had to give my opinion and I was forced, I would definitely say One Piece is better than Bleach. I think the power system is better. I think it's more fleshed out. I feel like Oda does a better job. He's more rounded of a writer, writing everything well and doing an amazing job with his world building. I think Kubo is amazing at writing characters, especially side characters, and giving them all like amazing hooks and backstories to make them feel alive in the world. However, I don't think he does a good job with power systems. I don't think he does a good job with world building. I don't think he does a good job with settings or like I don't want to say character motivation. Yeah, I'll say character motivations. Why characters are doing the things they're doing. Like, why the hell did Aizen have all these Arrancar that almost immediately all got wiped out at all? He's like already one of the most powerful characters, and if anyone's seen his sword, there's just a lot more plot holes in Bleach than One Piece, and I can only list maybe 3 plot holes in One Piece off the top of my head, but I can keep on coming up with them for Bleach. But anyway, this was a brief talk about the two characters, how they're written as active and as reactive and proactive characters, and a little bit of a talk on what makes the two shows different in their writing styles. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys like the video, leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Comment down below who your favorite characters are in both One Piece and Bleach and why you like them. I'd love to hear that. And yeah, I've been Bottlecap. Have a good one. And I hope everyone has a nice day. See y'all later.